Hello and welcome to another edition of Strategic Moves with Lou. I'm Mike Hendren. I'm a broadcaster and a licensed real estate agent. The host of our show is Lou Italis. She is the owner-broker of Strategic Realty in Wichita Falls, Texas. Lou, how are you this fine day?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
In spite of the cold, I'm doing great. Thanks.
No, it's snowing a little bit out there this morning.
Just a little bit. But fortunately, where we live here in North Texas, winters are very short-lived. And if you're looking for
5 seconds.
Yeah, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. And if
It'll
you're
be
looking
80 by like noon.
Oh yeah, it'll be over soon.
Not today.
You know, within a week we'll be up to about 96. So anyway, if you're looking for a place to relocate to where winters don't last quite so long, this is a great place for it. It's one of the reasons that Sheppard Air Force Base calls Wichita Falls, Texas, its home, because the weather here is so great, and they have a lot of great flying weather to work with, many clear days a year. So the weather here is fantastic. So if climate is a consideration in your relocation choices, this wouldn't be a bad place to relocate to. But again, Lou Italis, the owner-broker of Strategic Realty, and you have a special guest with us today.
I do. This is Charles Brown. And he's known me since I was a baby agent.
Yes.
He was my first. He was with us at R&D Realty, real estate. Was it R&D Real Estate?
Roland Donnell,
Roland Donnell.
and it's also Coldwell Banker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I first started working for Alan King, he was one of the agents there in the office, and he'd always give me pointers, and I'd go take pictures for him, help him get it loaded in his in his computer. And
Yeah, I'm not a IT guy. No.
Yeah. But so tell us a little bit about yourself, Charles, and how you got into real estate.
Well, I've always wanted to be in real estate. That goes back to when I had a young family, and I couldn't afford to get into real estate because, quite frankly, you've got to have a backup for your finances, and I had none. So I was about 50 years old before I finally was able to get into real estate. So I got into real estate in '93, and so I've been in it about 27, 28 years. It's been very rewarding for me, both financially and, personally. So now I've kind of slacked off on the selling, listing part of it, but I'm still involved in property management, my own and other people's also.
And he's one of my agents as well.
Yes. Lou decided that when I was ready to move to Strategic, she was there.
And you're always welcome. And let me think. Is there a single transaction that you haven't done? Like, I know that I've tried to do a little bit of everything, but is there anything in particular, any type of transaction that you really haven't done, or that you just like doing?
I don't have any that I really dislike. I've done just about everything, commercial and selling homes. I've also property management, and I've got somewhere, I've lost count, I've got somewhere around 600 transactions that I've done in the years that I've been in real estate. Yeah.
Have you done farm and ranch? That's the only one that I haven't done yet.
Well, I've done some, and to say some, I'm probably talking about 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah. But so I mostly work with families and residential.
Mm-hmm. What do you find is the most complex, or I hate to use the word complicated, because there's some complications in almost any transaction. There's fine details you got to keep up with.
Yeah, it's never the same.
Yeah, every transaction. But is there any particular type of transaction you find more difficult, let's say, than others in terms of
not really. It kind of comes down to the people you're working with, because you've got you've got a title company that, they take care of theirs. Mortgage companies, they're taking care of theirs. And so really I just help make the transaction smoother.
Yeah. The real estate agent you're a facilitator. That's what you are.
Yeah.
You're helping to facilitate all the parts and there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. So
Now, I've had several people that are a little more difficult or easy to work with,
We always have our special characters. Yeah.
Yes. And
what's the most complicated or most difficult transaction that you can remember? Or
probably that one that comes to mind is I had a major in the Air Force that was he didn't believe in signing unless he's read it. And so when you go to a closing at the title company, you got about 2 inches of paperwork. He wouldn't sign until he had read everything. And so we had to put him in a separate room, set him down, get him a cup of coffee, and let him start reading. And about 3 hours later, we came back and he signed.
That's not a cup of coffee. That's a pot of coffee.
Yes. Well, he had already finished that. So that was a little bit that's the only time I've had someone that says, I'm going to read everything. Well, and the title company will tell you that you may read everything, but we're not changing anything. So it's either you sign or you don't get the house, if that's what you're looking for.
It is what it is at that point.
It is what it is.
No, that's a lot of paperwork.
Well, and I can understand
it's gotten
people.
bigger over the years too, right? Or was it bigger back in the day?
No, it's larger now. Yeah. I can remember when a contract was about 6 pages, and now a contract is about 18 pages.
Yeah.
So
it's even grown since I got into real estate. I think when I first got into real estate, it was only like 11 pages.
Yeah, well, it's gradually grown. But we have to have something to keep the lawyers in Austin busy. So they keep making things all the time to add to it.
Yeah.
They put language in it now that's almost redundant. One sentence says this thing, that you're going to do this, and then the other sentence says you don't need to do this, you need to do this. And you're like, well, geez.
Contradictory, really.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
It's funny how that works. Lawyers get involved, and people that have never sold a house in their life are somehow involved in all of it. But that's the way it goes.
The reason why contracts change, and Charles, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it all depends on the courts.
Yes.
So if there's a case that comes along the courts that calls into question something that's on the contract, then that's when attorneys start to go, and it's usually based on the amount of things that go. Like, for instance, if 40% of the cases that are in court are because of the survey language or whatever, then an attorney is going to get in there and they're going to change the language of the survey to include whatever it is that either won or lost in the court case. So, I mean, the judicial system or the civil court system really has a lot to do with the length of our contracts, because, I mean, it's like everything else. One person can ruin it all for us.
Lou, Charles, this conversation really, I think, helps drive home the point of why it's so important to hire a real estate professional to help you navigate all this stuff. Doing it on your own, can you save some money? Yeah, but the headache is incredible.
So many legal loopholes.
And you leave yourself open to, like we were talking, lawsuits and such, because a real estate agent will help you navigate that.
Right. There's so many, I hate to sound cliche here, but so many I's to dot and T's to cross. You can miss one and cost yourself a lot of money and a lot of headache and a lot of heartache by just not being as thorough as you need to be. And that's where the real estate professional comes in. We're trained to be that thorough and to go back and check and recheck and recheck everything.
And we put things down into language that we can all understand.
Layman's terms,
not just legalese. I had a situation one time that this lady had. This was her mother's property. There had been several people that had lived in the property, but it was still the mother. Well, when she passed away, they required her going back or sending it out and going back and taking. Everybody had to sign off on it. Well, come to find out, there was like 15 people that had to sign off on it, and the sale just fell through because out of 15 people, you get some that won't sign.
Everybody's got to be on board.
Everybody's got to be on board.
Yeah.
That's the difficult part of real estate, especially when it comes to ownership of an elderly person. So that's usually whenever we see that there is a problem with a transaction, and divorces too. Those can be kind of contentious.
Yeah, and it's when you've got that many people, that many hands involved in it.
Yeah.
Ooh, the complications that come up. So again, it just drives home the point of why hiring a real estate professional is so important to making sure that the transaction is done legally, thoroughly, completely. Everything is again, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed, and everything's taken care. And everybody walks away much happier.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully even a little wealthier.
The goal is to get it sold, you know.
Right.
And so when it's sold and everybody calms down, you know, and it's good.
Yeah. It makes the whole thing a lot better.
Once they see their money in their bank account.
Money in their bank account. Right.
I want to ask you, Charles, if in all the years that you've been in, have you ever regretted getting into real estate? Have you ever thought, man, I wish I hadn't done this?
No. There's, in fact, I can't think of a time that I ever regretted getting into it because it also made me financially independent.
Yes.
You know, so that was real estate turned into my retirement income too because I bought properties along and that has helped fund my retirement.
And you've done a little bit of everything, and as far as real estate, I mean, you were also part of the Association of Realtors as a president. You were chairman of several committees. I mean, you've been a pretty busy boy.
I was voted Rising Star of the Year on my second year in real estate. I also completed, and I would recommend for anybody getting into real estate is to keep your education going, and that's what I did. I've been past president of the Wichita Falls Association of Realtors. I was voted Realtor of the Year in 2006. Real estate has just been very good to me.
That's great. That is great. You've had obviously very successful and rewarding career, and I'm sure you've got 10,000 stories you could tell that.
If I could help pull them up, but I can't. I can't remember them in here. You know.
We got to start talking about it, and then he'll be like,
that's
that?
right. Yeah, I remember that.
Hey, start penning your memoirs. You know, start writing it all down.
Start doing like a realtor book. You know, all the stories of every real estate.
I'm afraid it would be.
It would be too much.
It would be too much. People would think it's boring.
I don't know.
I didn't think so at the time, but
or they wouldn't believe it. There's some stories I'm sure you wouldn't believe.
Cannot make up.
Yeah.
There's some things that you just cannot make up.
I have experienced that myself in 3 different careers. There's always something that you go, this can't really be happening, but it is. Yes.
All right. Well, we have some more guests here today with us, so we are going to take a quick break and reset.
Yeah, and we'll be on it. Charles, thank you for being here. This has been fun.
Thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed it. All right. So we've got more coming up on Strategic Moves with Lou. And welcome back to Strategic Moves with Lou. Lou Italis, the owner-broker of Strategic Realty here in Wichita Falls, Texas, is the host of the show. I'm Mike Hendren. I'm a local broadcaster and a licensed real estate agent myself. And we've got 2 brand new guests with us here in the studio today. Lou, introduce our guests, please.
Well, we've got the Enlows here, our local appraisers. They've been in the business for, how long have you guys been doing appraisals?
I've been doing it 38 years.
Wow.
Coming up on 7 years for me.
Wow.
Okay.
Excellent. And so this is like a family tradition.
Father-son team.
Yeah,
that's right.
Training your kids in the field too.
Well, they're 2.5 and 9 months, but you know, You
Can never
always
start
plan
too
for the
early, right?
future.
No, you never. You got to start them young. You bring them up right.
That's
way.
right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I waited until mine was about 7 or 8 before I started getting her into real estate, and now she hates it. So she's gone completely the opposite direction. But so just tell us how you got into the appraisals.
Well, my granddad was a real estate broker, and my mom had her license, so I kind of had some background in that area.
In the
And
blood.
and I went to North Texas and graduated, had a BBA, and they had a real estate program.
Oh wow!
So I got into that, and I was interested primarily initially in commercial. And so I worked on, first job I had was in 1982 for a commercial appraisal firm in Dallas. Then I moved here in 93, and in Wichita Falls, you got to be a little bit of a jack of all trades.
Right.
So I started doing residential as well, and I enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us how this all starts. Like when you get an order from a bank to do an appraisal, they usually, I mean, there's standards that they set, whether it's depending on the type of loan it is, correct?
Yes. I mean, normally it's either FHA or a conventional loan. Sometimes it's an in-house loan. And so we make decisions about, what criteria we have to follow based on what kind of loan they're getting. But yeah, they order. Most of them are using a platform. We just get notice that here's an order, you accept it.
Correct.
And then we get with the agent, or nowadays showing time system, and that
kind of takes the human element out of it a
Yeah,
little bit,
at
but
least
it makes it a little bit easier too, so.
The only thing we don't like about it is we don't find out that much about what's going on at the house, whether
Right.
there's dogs.
Yeah, I
that
remember
like to
you
bite or whatever.
I used to get your guys' calls all the time. Well, I got the contract here. Is there anything I need to know?
Yeah, we still check because you never know with the dogs or kid home from college that nobody knew about.
Under 18.
Or
yeah.
with the showing time, we've discovered after there's a contract, we ask for a site visit, an appointment, and they'll deny it because they think, oh, well, there's no more showings.
property.
Right.
They're not aware.
Sure. They're not aware
So-
that it's an appraiser that's asking for the
Yeah,
showing.
That
Gotcha.
happens occasionally.
That's a good point. And then when it comes to, wow, my brain just went completely blank.
Well, like guideline wise, when you
Right,
think
right,
about
right.
the different ones, we've talked to agents before. There's a lot of people have a misconception that if you're getting a conventional loan, it's like anything goes. We don't really care too much about what condition the property is in, but that's not true.
Okay.
I mean, Fannie
So-
Mae.
If
the
it's going
backer-
to be in the secondary market, if they're
Right,
going to
right,
sell the note,
Right.
it has to meet Fannie Mae secondary guidelines, which the mantra or whatever you want to call it is safety, soundness, and structural integrity.
Okay. So it
And-
has to be livable and
If it doesn't meet those, which it is somewhat nebulous,
right.
but there are guidelines.
Yeah, and they're not as stringent as FHA.
Okay.
But by the same token, like even with FHA, people key in if it's built before 1978 or 1978 and before, you cannot have any peeling paint on any surface because it may have lead in it.
Correct.
But even if it's a newer house, you
can
can't
still
have
have
peeling
peeling
paint
paint.
if you've got some
Yeah.
bare wood
You still
because
can't
it's
have
a preservation.
That's a
problem.
good point. Yeah, because most of the time when you're dealing with homes that are built prior to 1978, that's the concern about the peeling paint is the lead-based paint. So if it's a newer home, what's the concern?
exposed subsurface.
Exposed subsurface, so like sheetrock and stuff like that, because that can also be a health hazard.
Sure, or
Mainly
the
that we're
exterior.
thinking about.
Oh, okay. So
So
exposed
basically wood rot,
Yeah.
deterioration.
Okay.
Yeah, one question I've got about that when we're talking about potential hazards and things like that, we have a lot of homes in our area that were built in the 40s and 50s that have asbestos siding on the outside of them. And I have a relative who passed away not long ago, and their home was built in 1950, and to this day has the exposed asbestos siding on the outside of the house that was put on there in 1950. How much of a problem does that pose for anyone, or is it an issue?
From an appraisal standpoint, we haven't seen that being an issue because the concerns with asbestos is if it becomes friable and it's airborne.
Right.
So
If you
you're
start
going to
to
have to
remove
cut
it.
that with a circular saw or something, to get the particles going. Now, I will say, just from personal experience, Brady had a 1940s model house with asbestos siding, and he had trouble getting insurance.
I did. It was difficult, but I finally did find a carrier.
Wow.
But it was an extra hurdle. But actually, I think that the material, if you're not cutting it, some of the older homes, I feel like it's a better siding material.
Yeah.
They came out
more
with
durable.
It is
asphalt and some other things, and it's just not. It's not the same. And actually, the asbestos, as long as they're not broken,
Well, I can say for a fact on that family member's home, after going on into 7 decades now with that siding on the home, it's not cracked, it's not falling off, it's not peeling paint or anything. It looks as good, I'm guessing, as the day they put it on there.
It's really expensive to replace too because nobody makes it anymore. But you can still find it if you do have a house that has asbestos siding. One of the tricks that I learned on identifying asbestos siding is if it's got that wave. If it's got that wave in the siding, if it's just straight, that's the composite one, right? The concrete composite.
It depends.
And if it's wavy, it's the one that's
Yeah.
asbestos.
I've heard that same thing, yeah.
Yeah, they even came through at some point and sold stuff that looks like it, but it's really just asphalt. It's like composition roof material.
Yeah, it's like a
Right.
shingle.
And that really deteriorates poorly.
Quickly, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess then that's not really a trick that I learned then. But that's how I've always identified a house. If I see that it's got the curly siding on it, then I usually say, well, this is asbestos siding, so, just don't mess with it.
Yeah. But that was just a very common material back then.
Right.
And there were no safety concerns then, I guess, about it. But it was because of its fire retardant capabilities, I guess that's why it was preferred.
Right.
But as far as appraisal is concerned, I mean, I don't think
doesn't
there's
change-
any
it doesn't
guidelines or
change
it
your-
doesn't affect
value.
the appraisal
Doesn't
as long
affect
as it's
it.
not a safety hazard.
Well,
Gotcha.
tell us about some of the things that do affect the value of a home. Because I know that a lot of people, like for instance, investors, they go into a home, they buy a house, and they're going to rehab it, and they go, oh, well, if I put, this kind of countertop, it'll sell for more, it'll appraise better or it'll appraise for higher. If I, redo this, rework this room and, so that there's certain things that they think that adds value to a home, even as a homeowner, like they're redoing their kitchen or whatever. And they say, if I put quartz on it, isn't that going to increase the value another $7,000? Tell us a little bit about that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a lot of variation in that. And so, I can't categorically, we don't personally, if you've got granite counters, we're not making a line item adjustment. Oh boy, they got granite counters.
Right. Okay.
We look at the overall condition.
The
But
condition.
in general, kitchen and bathrooms is where you see a lot of money that you can spend more than you're going to.
Yeah.
recoup,
Well, and
for
that's
sure.
I think that's the confusion with a lot of homeowners is that they think that if they go in and they redo a whole bathroom, spend $20,000 on this high-end bathroom, that it's going to add value when it's most of it is just perceived value for the person that's purchasing it. Yeah.
Cost doesn't equal value
Right.
in all circumstances.
That's a good
And,
thing. That's a good point.
And it's also about your specific market segment. Mm-hmm. If you live in a certain neighborhood where the median price is 100 to 150 and you spend $50,000 on your kitchen, you're not going to see those kind of returns.
Right.
It's
That's
all
good.
about,
Yeah.
the market segment and what the people and potential buyers, market participants expect.
Correct. Okay. So,
Over improvements.
right. Over improvements can be actually a loss for a lot of
For example,
homeowners.
I did one recently where an individual had a home on acreage, but had a significant number of outbuildings. Everybody likes a nice outbuilding, but
Man
when
cave,
you have,
she shed.
7,000 square feet of shop, when most of them are 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever, there's diminishing returns on that. So
Yeah. Because there's only so much you can do with the $7,000.
a buyer's only going to
shop.
pay
Yeah.
for so much, or somebody on 10 acres is like, well, I just need a place for my boat and trailer. I don't need an extra 4,000 square feet.
So those over improvements can it's not just bathrooms and kitchens, other structures on the property, or even with landscaping. I mean, you can go hog wild with landscaping, and you
it
can
just
spend
adds curb appeal. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it-
add value.
you can add a lot of curb appeal, and you can spend many thousands of dollars adding that curb appeal. And as you said, there's a diminishing return. You get to a point where you've thrown all this money into it. It's really not making it more valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with bathrooms, for example. It's what is common in that specific market. So if everything's 3.2, 3.5, or whatever it is, bedroom and bathroom count, I mean, if you got 5 bathrooms or 6 bathrooms, well, nobody
That's
cares.
just more toilets for me to clean. Good God.
You're not going to
That's-
see those same returns.
Exactly. Yeah. Every time I see those houses that are like 6,000 square feet and you got 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms, all I think is, oh my gosh, 6 toilets to clean.
That's more toilet flappers to malfunction too. There's
Right.
nothing more frustrating.
So
than-
many more leaks can happen
Yeah.
in that scenario.
Well, nothing more frustrating than coming home from a 2-week vacation and the toilet's running, and you don't know how long it's been running.
Yeah.
And then you
Yep.
get the $300 water bill, and you know how long it was running.
Or $1,500 water bill. I've seen that one happen before, and that's just heartbreaking.
That's crazy.
But so there is differences between the conventional and the FHA. We'll just wrap up real quick. But the majority of the differences are going to be based on what you said about habitability, safety, and
Fannie Mae is safety, soundness, and structural integrity.
okay.
So you can have deferred maintenance as long as it doesn't, cross that threshold where it's too far.
And mainly outside.
It's on the inside as well, but typically what we see is on the outside. Roof coverings. What are some other issues that you can think of quickly?
Well, even operating bathrooms. We've been in homes where people have kind of given up on this.
Yeah, you
extra
just shut it down
bathroom,
and
they're like, well, we don't use that.
Heat
Like,
and air.
Well, Fannie Mae guideline is if it's there, it should be
It should
operable.
function.
Another thing is if, you might be in an older home and they have central heat and air, but they don't use it, or it doesn't work. If it's there, it should operate.
Okay.
With
So-
FHA, more stringent
Right, the
requirements,
FHA is a lot more
peeling
stringent.
paint, a missing shingle, lots of different things. Rotten wood.
Wood rot is almost the top thing. Peeling paint and wood rot are, I think, are 2 main issues that we always see in a lot of our transactions. There was one, well, you guys don't do VA, but I had a VA appraisal that just went topsy-turvy because of a tree that was already dead and was already cut, but they wanted me to chop it down to the bare stump. They could not even be in the yard. And I was like, not doing that.
Well,
But-
I think that brings up a good point. Just like in agents, there's a variation in people, and there's a variation in appraisers. And
Right,
so
right.
it's a judgment call at the end of the day on a lot of issues. And so that's what we try to do. We try to do the,
Triage.
and
Make
try
sure.
to figure out if it meets the guidelines or not.
Yeah, and so you guys make adjustments for main things like whether it's the age of the home. You guys look at the size of the home, what features it has, whether it
Right.
has a garage or how many bedrooms and stuff like that, but not necessarily what's in the home as far as granite
Well, we
versus
do that-
quartz or formica
That would come in on condition.
conditions.
Quality
or
as well.
We have a lot
yeah,
of things
that's
now
true.
in
Quality,
quality. Where
Q3,
people-
Q4, Q5,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Where people have totally redone something, then we're looking specifically for other homes that have been totally redone. Because even in smaller homes now, that's over $100 a foot.
It's hard to find apples and apples nowadays, but we try as best as we can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that seems to be a lot of information. We could be talking about this stuff forever. So we'll probably have you back at some point. Just be prepared.
Definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of ground we can cover. So thank you very much for being with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it very much.
Thank y'all.
All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Strategic Moves with Lou. Join us next time for a brand new episode. Look for us on Facebook, and also be sure to check out the strategicrealty.net website as well. And, of course, the phone number, if people want to get in touch with Strategic, is
940-689-7900.
simple as that.
And like us on YouTube. We've got our channel already all set up.
That's right. So
Strategic Moves with Lou.
there you go. Thanks very much for being with us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.